Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality back with you here today to go over some news that I know the article you're seeing, the headline here, this is already a little overdue because there have been consequences for actions. But just to go over really quick, the article is from Red State, dated April 6th, and it's titled Democrat Reps Facing Expulsion for Tennessee Insurrection, Learn What Consequences Are. Yes, I thought when there were insurrections to people on the left, like, don't you want there to be consequences? So let's go through the article, see what it says. And again, we already know what some of the results are from this, or I shouldn't say some, we know what all the results are from this. But the article says 3 Tennessee legislators are facing expulsion after they helped lead an insurrection, at least by left-wing standards, at the state's Capitol building. As Red State reported, a mob of activists descended on the legislators as they were debating gun legislation. Pushing and shoving with police officers occurred as the crowd trespassed deeper into the building, including the upper areas of the main chamber. Eventually, the 3 legislators in question took a bullhorn and joined the crowd they helped incite, shutting down the legislative process. Now, those legislators, including a man named Justin Jones, who is this man right here you can see on the screen, are learning what consequences are, and they are none too happy about it. So this is from The Recount, which is a leftist website. He said it's morally insane that he and his 2 Dem colleagues are facing expulsion over gun violence protests. Okay, well, that's not the entire details. So it's very concerning, and it represents a clear and present danger to democracy all across the nation that should trouble us all. Okay, it's only a threat to democracy when it's something that goes against what you guys are saying or doing, okay? But never mind if it was the other way around, okay? And plus, I'd also argue that I'm not sure you know what democracy is. Democracy isn't having a mob of people storm a legislative chamber demanding that you adhere to their whims. So that's actually called tyranny. So I'd recommend looking up what democracy is and trying again on that one. So, Jones begins by decrying the work of the legislature, using a recent mass shooting committed by a radicalized transgender person to bolster his assertion. It's pretty ghoulish given it's his party's rhetoric, including the idea that trans people are being genocided, which led to the tragedy. And goes on to quote saying, "I think it's morally insane that a week after a mass shooting took 6 precious lives in my community here in Nashville, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, their first action isn't to rein in this proliferation of weapons of war in our streets, but it's to expel their colleagues for standing with their constituents." Okay, well, there's a couple of things I want to address here. First thing, the idea that trans people are being genocided. This is literally not a thing, okay? As part of a group of people who has had this happen to them in the past, I've mentioned numerous times in other videos that I am a Jew, okay? I think I have an idea of what that word actually means, at least somewhat, I would say. And I'll tell you guys right now that if you look up the number of transgender hate crimes that happened in, I want to say it was 2022, the number comes out to an entire 2. Not 200, not 2,000, 2. 1 + 1 = 2. There were 2. Okay? 2 people is not a genocide. Okay? So all he's doing by hearing that is just taking the far left position, the NPC download and go that everybody says, or that they say they're getting genocided, and going, oh, yep, that must be true, and is just not even bothering to look into it at all. Okay, so he's 100% wrong about that. And going on to his quote, the weapons of war in our streets. Well, what we know about the shooter is that she got all of her guns legally. There isn't a law that was in place that would have done anything to stop her from getting those guns. Okay, so what the hell are you talking about exactly? So back to the article, it says Democrats are nothing if they aren't overly entitled. Here's a pro tip for Jones from someone who follows politics fairly closely. It is not his job to decide what his colleagues do. That's correct. His colleagues are duly elected, correct, and they have a duty to carry out the wishes of their constituents. Also correct. Tennessee is a red state that supports gun rights. Jones may not like that, but tough luck. That is correct. He continued from there by repeating the left's favorite talking point, which is that anything they don't like is a threat to democracy. And I absolutely hate this. Okay, that you see this all the time with everything, that if you make a decision they don't like, that they're just gonna be like, it's a threat to democracy. It's not. Okay, if the people decide something that you don't like, that's just what the people decide. That's democracy. Okay, it's not, oh my God, it's the end of the world. And when everything is the end of the world, okay, eventually people are gonna look at you. You've become the boy who cried wolf. People are gonna start looking at you and just going, oh Jesus, just shut the hell up. And they're just going to move on with their life, and that's it, okay? So what Jones goes on to say is that, so this is not just about losing that job. It's about silencing the voices of over 70,000 people in my district. Altogether, the three of us represent over 200,000 people whose voices are being taken and silenced by a party that is acting like authoritarians. It's not authoritarian. You disrupted a legislative process. Okay? And from what I read, they were 100% right to throw you out. And this guy, too, just an FYI, from what I read about it as well, he has a record of doing stuff like this and of making threats towards people. And in fact, there's another article on Red State from, I think, a little bit after this one came out, that in fact there's a Republican representative who is of Indian descent, and he said in his 53 years that he's been alive, the only time he's ever had someone hurl a racial insult to him was this guy, this Justin Jones guy, was the guy who did it. And when he said that in the chamber, Justin Jones basically looked at him and is like, just doubled down on it. So it's like, he said that's the only time it's happened. So this dude is not a good dude, okay? And that's not what authoritarianism is. Authoritarianism is closer to, say, having a mob of people rush into a legislative chamber and trying to force people to make a decision that they want, okay? This is not authoritarianism. Again, stop using words that you do not know the definition of, people on the left, okay? Already in this article from this guy, we've had genocide and authoritarian and even democracy. So 3 times that he's used words that he doesn't seem to know the definition of, okay? But he's using them in the exact way leftists tend to use them, which means he's just getting his download and going, oh, that just must be what it means, and just doesn't actually know what that is. Okay, so his quote ends with, "It's very concerning and it represents a clear and present danger to democracy across this nation that should trouble us all." And again, using democracy wrong. That excerpt is just incredible. What part of democracy includes using a mob that, yep, this is what I just said, includes using a mob that represents a minority in the state to force their viewpoints on others by shutting down the legislative process? That's not democracy, it's tyranny, as I said at the very beginning of this video. Jones and his colleagues are the authoritarians in this case. That is 100% correct. Says they are the ones who fomented and directly participated in an insurrection, again, by the left standards, to override the democratic process. So yes, that is not democracy. And for that, they should absolutely be expelled. Keep in mind, they don't even have any remorse for what they did. Instead, they are doing hits on CNN playing the victim. To not expel them at this point would welcome total anarchy within the Tennessee legislature. Republicans who own a supermajority in the chamber must straighten their backs and do the right thing is probably what they meant to say. Okay, Red State, just check on your stuff. To not do so would be profoundly harmful. Okay, so what happened, the follow-up to this, is that this dude, the other African-American gentleman, were both expelled, and then the white lady missed getting expelled by a single vote, and the rep who was the one who voted not to expel her, or it was the final deciding vote, put out a statement. It was kind of weird. But, of course, right after that happened, my first thought was, okay, they expelled the 2 black people and kept the white woman. They're going to, of course, run with the racism thing is why they made the decision. And, of course, that's exactly what they ended up doing, which means it's not actually about that, okay? Both of these guys, like I've already talked about this Justin Jones guy, but the other guy in there was also someone who basically I don't know if he had a record, but he's another person that has a history of making provocative statements. The lady, though, she's a bit of a nutter, but I'm going to tell people on the right this, grow a freaking spine, okay? She should have been expelled. You need to find a way to expel her. Communists need to be removed from government because they're going to keep doing this, okay? They're going to keep just making crap up that didn't happen, using words that they don't actually know, okay? And they're going to try to say that this is what's actually going on, okay? We know what happened, okay? So these folks deserve to get expelled. The white lady did too. She did not, though, but she absolutely deserves to be expelled. If there's a way to do it, go do it. Okay? And these folks trying to make it about race, okay, it's one of those things where it just they just happened, the 2 people who were expelled just happened to be black. Okay? They weren't expelled because they were black. Okay? There's a massive difference between those 2 things. And again, that white lady should have been expelled as well. Okay? Because she's a huge part of the problem there too. Okay, so folks, this is what happens. If you storm a Capitol building, again, from the left standards, you try to disrupt the legislative process, and you get kicked out. Isn't that what's supposed to happen? You lose your job over it? I thought this is what you guys wanted, so maybe stop complaining, okay, and just realize that, oh, wait, we did this thing that wanted to happen after a certain date in January a few years ago, and now the Republicans are actually doing this thing So it's like, what are you upset about? Okay, just shut up. Okay, and deal with it. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Talk to you soon. Bye.